sorry. I was just gonna say. I think what we should do is, first of all, I'm not going to say what's cracking with the Kraken,
I will. It'll amuse
but
Nate.
I think this actually is a good setup because I think basically what we can do is I can throw it to you for the Kraken, like because you know how Nate doesn't usually start talking, so I can just say, I'll say what's cracking with the Kraken, fine,
Yeah.
and then I'll throw it to you, and
Sure.
then you can throw it to me for the Seahawks. I'll throw it to you for the Mariners. You throw it to me for the Storm, and then we just go back and forth. So basically, you're going to be doing the Kraken, the Mariners, and the Sounders, and I'll do the Seahawks, the Storm, and college basketball.
Perfect. Easy money. Easy money. I'm full of dinner. I'm very content.
I had a double header in basketball last night that I got done at like 10:30,
Oof.
and then I had to drive to Portland this morning or to Hillsboro this morning.
Ugh.
So yeah, I'm pretty tired.
Barf.
Pretty tired.
Barf. I took the day off of work yesterday and climbed Mount Si. That was real nice. And
Big or little?
Big Si.
So big site, it's longer, but it's not as hard in my opinion. Like it's still challenging, but little size is just straight up.
It's like flat up. It's like the Rachel Lake hike.
Did
Si,
you do?
go ahead.
I was just to say, did you do the scrambling at the top?
No, it was snowy.
Okay,
Like I had
good
ice.
call.
Yeah, I had ice specs on. It was funny. I got up to the point on the trail where like you can go left through the scramble and go up to the top, or you can go right and go to Tenerife. There's like a little bench right there, and no one else had made any tracks in the snow past the bench, and I was like, I'm not going to be the first guy to try this.
Probably a good call.
Yeah, no, it was epic. I was up there when it was still cloudy, so I was up there all by myself as it cleared. So I got a fucking epic view. It was awesome. Cool.
So it looks like the Kraken are gonna play either Dallas or Colorado.
That looks most likely, yeah.
Well, that's
Is
gonna happen. I mean,
oh shit.
unless
Yeah, I didn't realize most of the 82nd games were done tonight already.
yeah. So basically, the Kings are playing the Ducks right now, and if the Kings get a point, they're locked into the Pacific 3 seed, which means the Kraken are the first wild card. So they'd be and Vegas with a point would
play
clinch the number one seed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
so
how they do that, right? They give like it's like 2 1 seeds and 2 8 seeds, It's kind of cool.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
That's good.
Because I do too. I do too.
Yeah, let's just get into it, man.
I like it. I don't think this one's going to be as long. So
we'll see. What is going on, sport fans? Welcome into episode 25 of the P Cubed podcast. My name is Thomas Barrett, and I'm here with one buddy, Brian Danello.
Wah, wah.
We're so glad that you're here hanging out with us while we have our weekly look at the Seattle sports landscape. Today, we're just two idiots having a chat, so more than normal, we desperately need your help to keep us in line, so please reach out with feedback or suggestions. You can find the pod on Apple, Spotify, and iHeart. You can tweet us at P3SportsPod, or you can join us live on YouTube while we record at P3SportsPod on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's free and easy, and it helps us out quite a bit, and it lets you be notified when we go live or when the pod gets posted up each week. With all that housekeeping out of the way, grab a bev and buckle up. Brian, what's on our schedule this week?
Yeah, I'm doing it because Nate is not here, so I am gonna kind of be the MC like Nate usually is for this week. So we're gonna wicka. So we're gonna start with what we usually do with our Around the Sound. We've got some Kraken, some Seahawks, some Mariners stuff to talk about. Then we're gonna get into sports predictions with me, Nate's favorite segment, Hey, What You Got? And then end with our closing questions. So, Thomas, What's cracking with the Kraken?
What is Kraken with the Kraken? It's a great question. So they are actually getting ready to play tonight. So yeah, they're in the first period right now, tied 1-1 with Vegas. The regular season ends tomorrow, which is pretty cool. So we can actually talk about playoff seeding. If you missed it late last week, over the weekend, the Kraken clinched. They're a playoff team in their second year of existence. It's really, really cool. It's a reasonable amount of fanfare over the weekend. I think a lot of folks in the organization are really proud of what they've been able to do and how far they've been able to come, especially with, really underperforming pretty badly last year and really kind of feeling like maybe meeting expectations or even overperforming a little bit this year. So it's confirmed they are going to be a playoff team. It's looking like they're likely to be the top wild card seed, although it's still mathematically possible for them to sneak into the third spot in the Pacific. Brian, you and I were chatting about this just before we jumped on the recording here. It's really interesting how the hockey playoffs get seeded. So there's 4 divisions, which each contribute to a conference. So there's 4 divisions, 2 conferences. The sides of the playoff bracket are by conference, and so you have the 2 divisions kind of mutually contributing to each side of the playoffs. And they basically take the 2 top teams in each division and kind of declare them both as 1 seeds. Take the 2 wild card teams and kind of declare them as the 8 seeds. So you almost get like 2 kind of 1-8 matchups, obviously with the better record 1 seed playing the lower record 8 seed. And then the 2 and the 3 seed from each of the individual divisions kind of play each other as well. It's a really interesting play on it. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I think the last part that you brought up is actually the most interesting to me. It guarantees that 3 teams from each division will make the playoffs, which it's the only sport that does that. No other sport guarantees that'll happen. So it's kind of cool that they do that. Yeah, so it's looking like the Kraken are going to be the first wild card, like you said. They're down 1-0 to Vegas right now. What would happen is they need to beat Vegas, and they would need LA to lose to Anaheim. Doesn't look like either one of those is going to happen, so they're pretty much locked into the first wild card spot, which means they'll probably play either Colorado or Dallas. Now Dallas has won 6 games in a row, so they're coming in hot. And they've played Dallas 3 times in the last month. The good news is the road team has won every game in those 3 games, and the Dallas has home ice advantage. So you never know.
It's really interesting looking at those 2 teams too, because I think the Avalanche are a team that people actually like to take it all the way and meet the Bruins probably in the Stanley Cup Finals. But they're also kind of gettable early. They got a little injury bug going around, and it's a team you played pretty strong during the season. So it will be really interesting to see who they get matched up against. It's really just a really interesting season the Kraken have had. Obviously McCann has hit the 40-goal plateau, which it's kind of I don't know. Is that kind of like 30 dingers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Yeah.
So you've got one guy that kind of hit that plateau. But as far as points go, man, Jared McCann's your leading point getter at 70 points right now. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the 100-point threshold is kind of like, pretty epic kind of superstar level.
Like 50 home runs. Yeah.
And so to have your top guy that far below that kind of upper level threshold, it really speaks a lot to the depth and balance of the team. Not having a single guy that can go out on any night and wreck everything like a certain guy named Connor McDavid. He's got 152 points. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's like having an OPS plus like 290.
Yeah, but crazy. They have 6 20-goal scorers, so it's which is up in the top part of the league.
Wow.
So even though you're right, they don't have that one guy they can count on. They do have the depth that can lead them. And you don't know who it's going to be from night to night. And I think that makes them even more dangerous in the playoffs, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, that's what kind of intuition and logic would dictate, but I don't know anything about hockey playoffs, so I guess we'll see.
I don't either. I mean, I would always watch it because it was fun to watch, but now I have a rooting interest, so
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun.
it is really interesting. I never watched much hockey except the playoffs, and it's so compelling. There's so many storylines. I mean, it's the same in basketball, but to me, it never really felt the same. The fact that in a hockey schedule, you go from like playing someone like once every 3 or 4 months to playing them potentially 7 consecutive times, like that's just insane. That's
Yeah,
crazy. I'm pumped up for it, man.
I love it.
You got anything else on the Kraken?
Nope.
Let's move on to the Seahawks. Brian, what you got on Seahawks?
Yeah, so the draft is coming up. We are recording this on April 13th. It's a Thursday, so we are 2 weeks away from draft day.
Exactly 2 weeks.
There have been no trades for the Seahawks, so they're still holding the 5-20 spots. Jalen Carter was in Seattle this week for a visit, which I thought was interesting. It means at the very least that they are still interested in taking him at 5. So I don't know if he's on the board, if that means they're going to take him, but it definitely means that he is in play. I still think that they are most likely to trade out maybe into the back half of the top 10, somewhere around I guess not 9 because 9 was already traded, but somewhere
Bears might
8,
want to come back down,
10,
but yeah, it seems like
maybe
eight,
even
8 or
11.
10 or 11 would be more likely.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that they do that. Maybe pick up, you know, a first and a extra third or something. Especially if Will Anderson is gone, then I think it's even more likely. I think if Will Anderson is there at 5, the Seahawks will take him.
Mm-hmm.
If he is gone, they will trade. Is my guess.
The only reason that I'm a little bit worried about that sentiment, which by the way is exactly what I think, there's probably 3 or 4 teams that are saying that exact same thing. And at some point, someone's got to just take a player. So I don't know if you're going to see, the top each one individual guy from a number of different position groups start to go in the back half of the top 10. But I don't know. It seems like a lot of people are saying Will Anderson or trade out.
Yep. I think that's the most common scenario. I also am hearing that Arizona is getting a lot of offers for the 3rd pick, which would be really good news for the Seahawks if they trade that 3rd pick, because it's more than likely
is going to be taking a QB for sure.
It's going to be a quarterback team for sure. So that means you very well could see QBs go 1 through 4, and then the Seahawks literally have their pick of whoever they want on the defense.
That's the dream scenario 5. For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I saw. Was it Kuiper today that mocked the Seahawks trading back into the first round to take Hendon Hooker at like the 30 or 31st pick?
Yeah, I heard that on the radio today. I think the reason why teams are doing that is so they can get the 5th-year option.
Yep, same like the Vikings did with Teddy Two Gloves,
and what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson.
Did they do that with Lamar?
They did.
Oh, I didn't remember.
Yeah, so I think that would be really interesting. I don't think the Seahawks would do that, especially since you already know that you're punting year 1 with Hendon Hooker because he's not going to play because of his ACL
injury. That could make you want to take him in the first round, though, because if you take him later and you know he's going to sit for a year, then you're only potentially getting like 3 years of use out of him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if somebody does that for sure. I don't think the Seahawks will, but it would be very interesting. So either way, it's always an exciting time right before the draft. You hear a lot of stuff coming out from teams.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be kind of cool.
Did I heard this morning the guys in KJR had a beat reporter from the Texans on, and he was adamant that they were gonna trade out from 2 because they weren't going to take a quarterback. And that just seems wrong.
That guy's a moron. Whoever said that is a moron.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was thinking.
They're not going to go into another year with Davis Mills.
Oh, man.
So next up, we've got the Mariners. Thomas, go ahead and give us a little Mariners talk.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's really excited to talk about the 5-8 Seattle Mariners. Man, just a couple of gut punches over the weekend. So they had a disappointing opening homestand, 2-5 against Cleveland and LA. They head out on the road for the second series of the season against Cleveland, and they win the first 2 games and look pretty good doing it. And then you get into the third game, you lose it in extras. You kind of say, well, okay, whatever. And then the next game against the Cubs, you tried so hard to lose that first game against the Cubs, and you finally did, allowing to come back for the third time. I think they came back in the 9th, 11th, and 12th innings and finally walked it off in the 12th. Insane.
Yep.
They come out Tuesday morning, hang 9 on them in the first 2 innings, and then gut punch, boom, you lose 14-9. So they're just finding new ways to lose games. Either way, it's early. We're not going to draw any conclusions. They're not really playing Mariners baseball, and you trust them to within a couple of weeks' time. Once they really get rolling, they're going to be playing better defense. They're going to be pitching better. So not too many conclusions there.
Yeah, the pitching, I'm not drawing a bunch of conclusions as well, but the pitching is a little worrisome to me.
Yeah.
With the bullpen specifically. Matt Brash, yes, he's got probably the best stuff in the entire organization, but he's kind of a little wild. We saw that last year at the beginning of the year. Hopefully this is kind of like the beginning of the year last year. Diego Castillo has looked like dog shit so far. Munoz is on the DL.
He seems like a boom and bust type of guy. Like sometimes he's unhittable, and sometimes like I feel like I could hit him.
He also looks like he's lost a lot of weight.
I was hearing that. I wonder if that's brought his velo down a little bit.
Yeah. Munoz is on the DL. I mean, Sewald's still Sewald, but they haven't had as many chances to get to him. I'm a little nervous about the bullpen, specifically with Munoz, just because he was the anchor. In my opinion, he's their best reliever. Actually, I don't even know if it's that much of an opinion, but
yeah,
he's their
hot take.
best.
Hot take. The guy throwing 103 is our best arm.
Yep, exactly. So it's a little worrisome, especially since he had Tommy John a couple years ago. It's always worrisome when you hear shoulder and elbow stuff with a guy who's already had Tommy John. So that's something to keep an eye on. It sounds like it's just a little bit of a dead arm kind of thing. So hopefully with some rest, he can get back in there. Robbie Ray, another one. He's out 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It sounds like, and that's a huge loss to them as well. And that's one thing that we talked about a lot in the off season is the health of the pitching staff. Yeah. And it is already rearing its ugly head the other way this year.
It's almost like you banked too much good luck and it was inevitable. Crazy that last year, no one missed any starts due to injury. It's really uncommon for that to happen. So a little bit of paying the piper this year. France is looking hot, and man, Jared Kelenic looking hot.
Did you see that home run that he hit yesterday?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Like that's like hitting it into the bleacher seats at Safeco.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It was a big one. In fact, I have it down lower in the show sheet for his dangers. The Mariners put out a video, I think today. It's off day, right? It's like minute 10 or minute 20, and it's all the angles of the 3 home runs he hit in Wrigley, and wow. I mean, they were all
combined
big
time. Combined like 1,300 feet.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, the one he hit Monday was a big pull side homer way up off the scoreboard in right field. A homer on Tuesday, he took an outside pitch to left center into one of the tunnels. Bellinger's didn't even bother with it. And then the one yesterday was just an unbelievable shot to dead center. So like we talked about in spring training, right? You need to increase the sample size before you start drawing conclusions. But on a process basis, it's really, really encouraging to see some of the changes that he's made really paying off. So it's really, really good.
Yeah, and 710 actually asked a question. They had a poll question earlier today. They say, would you rather have Kelenic get off to a hot start and the Mariners not, or vice versa?
Oh, Kelenic hot start every time. He over the span of his time with the Mariners, he will net you more wins if he gets off to a hot start and is able to find his groove and become a productive major leaguer for sure. You want to avoid the big hole. Obviously, you're already 8 games down to Tampa Bay, but
we'll talk about them a little later.
We'll talk about them a little later. Yeah, you got anything else in the M's? Let's see. They're back home Starting tomorrow, they got Colorado and who else?
St. Louis and Milwaukee. They're calling it the beer homestand.
Oh my god, yeah, that's hilarious. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, got
That's
the Rockies, the Brewers, and then
the Cardinals, yeah.
Anheuser-Busch. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Uh,
hilarious.
yep. I might be going to either Monday or Tuesday to the game. It'd be my first one of the year.
Nice.
I might. I don't know yet. But either way, it's nice to have baseball back and to have that option.
It's nice to have baseball back. I agree.
So, Seattle Storm, just a little quick hitter on them. WNBA draft was last week. As expected, Aaliyah Boston went number 1 to Indiana. She was the South Carolina forward. Everybody knew she was going to be the number 1 pick. South Carolina actually have 5 players drafted, and that's in 36 picks because there's only 3 rounds in the WNBA draft.
Yeah, Nate was really adamant that was like the best women's college team probably that there's ever been. Or was that you?
It was Nate. But it was really, really crazy to see how many players got drafted. That's like, 5 Georgia Bulldogs getting drafted in the first round last year. So it's pretty much the same thing. The Storm had the 9th pick. They drafted someone from Tennessee. She was actually projected to be a top 5 pick. So they got a little lucky with her falling. It's going to be a rough year for the Storm, but it sounds like they had a pretty good draft. I think they had 4 or 5 picks, so they got some players, and those players are going to be playing right away. So it's going to be they're going to be thrown right into the fire here.
Yeah, you were saying a month or two ago that at one point they didn't even have enough players to start a game. Like the roster was that thin.
Yep. I think at one point they had 3 players on the roster.
Oh my goodness.
So they have since filled it, but not with the people that everybody was looking for. So it's going to be a rebuilding year. They still have Jewel Lloyd, who's an all-star and an Olympian. So at least they have that. And the Storm are like the Sounders, where they always seem to make noise even when people don't expect it. So this is going to be maybe another chance.
Yeah, nice.
Speaking of the Sounders, Thomas, what's going on with the Sounders?
Speaking of the Sounders, yeah, they had a really nice win on Saturday. Nate and I were able to go, which was pretty fun. They played against St. Louis City SC, so their expansion team this year. They won their first 5 games of the season. It's the longest winning streak ever by an expansion team, and made kind of extra special in that it was their first 5 games. So there was a lot of hullabaloo heading into the game. Oh, it's the top 2 teams in the West. It's the new pups and the old dogs. And the Sounders made it pretty clear with this result that the new pups have some work to do. St. Louis came in with kind of an unexpected wrinkle in their tactics that took a while for the Sounders to adjust to. So the first half was kind of not that interesting and not that entertaining. And then about the 51st, 52nd minute, they just put the clamps on. Ruidiaz subbed on in the 61st, and we started pumping goals in the 64th. And it wasn't much of a match after that. So good job to the Sounders. It's what the good teams do. You win the games you're supposed to win, and you win them emphatically, and you make it pretty obvious that you're the better squad. I thought St. Louis did pretty well. I think they'll have a reasonably successful season. I don't think they're a real good team. I didn't see a ton of individual talent, but they're committed to their plan, and their plan is great for MLS, which is to weather and counter. So I think they'll have a decent season. I was especially unimpressed with their goalkeeper. The second goal is one that went right through his hands, and Ruidiaz was there to poke it in. There was a ball early that he was way out of his goal mouth. For those of you that were watching the game, was the cross that Leo Chu played into the middle, trying to hit Jordan at the back post, and it just went right to the keeper, and it was kind of deflating. If you go back and look at the replay, it wasn't a terrible cross. The reason it went straight to the keeper is the keeper was about 1.5 miles off his line. If Chu would have picked his head up, he would have just poked it right behind him. But anyway, Portland is up next for the Sounders. We love Portland week. Fuck the Timbers. A lot of talk in the lead up to the game about whether Ruidiaz will start or not because he wasn't coming off the bench. Stop it. It's Portland. Rui's playing. Chu is sitting. It's not rocket science. Jordan's on the wing. Ruidiaz will be up top. Fuck Portland.
You can't What about the idea of going with 2 strikers? Is that something that you would think?
They have had so much success under Siggy and under Schmetzer playing the 4-2-3-1. So no, I don't think they're going to come out and start with 2 strikers. Not when they have this many positive roster decisions to make, right? Sometimes you end up in a difficult place with your roster and you have to make difficult decisions because you're so thin. Then you can start to make tactical adjustments. They're so happy in the 4-2-3-1. They have so many central midfielders and even guys like Roldan that can just move all over the field and switch positions constantly. Rushnak and Lodero and Atencio and Roldan, they have such good chemistry together. That's such a big benefit for the team. So no, I think you'll see Jordan out wide. I think you'll see Rui up top, and even they will do some interplay throughout the game. But I think that's what you're going to see.
Okay.
And JP back in the starting lineup, I'm sure, even though Josh Atencio had a monster game, I think he sits as well. You come out with your vets on Saturday. That's what I got. I think right. you got a little something on Sea Dragons?
No, not really. They did play the best team in the league. They were coming in on a 5-game winning streak. They played DC. They lost. So they are now 5-3. DC is now 7-1, and they've clinched the North Division.
Dang.
Well, they've clinched a playoff spot anyways.
How many games do they play?
10. So there's 2 more regular season games. I think the Sea Dragons still have a shot at the playoffs, but they won't be able to win the division because DC has the tiebreaker over them. But it still is interesting to watch. I actually watched a little bit of the game, not much, but I did see Philip Lindsay get in there.
Nice.
We talked about him a little bit last week. He wasn't really in game shape, so he didn't get a whole lot of touches. But when he did, he was very effective. So
nice.
Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, he can continue to get there and lead them to a playoff position.
It's such an interesting case because he's really not that far past playing in the NFL, and especially at that position, man. If there's a team that gets to week 3, week 4, and they need a guy, you're reaching back into some of these guys that are going to be in better shape and prove they can still tote the rock. That's kind of interesting.
Absolutely. And then I've also got one area college basketball note.
Yeah.
We were talking a couple of weeks ago about, or maybe last week, about Gonzaga having 3 players transfer out of the program. Sounds like they got 1 player into the program. Eastern Washington had the Big Sky Conference Player of the Year in Steele Venters. Great name, by the way.
Steele Venters.
And he is transferring to Gonzaga. He actually had 27 points in the NIT game, the victory over Washington State.
Wow.
So I saw him play a couple times. He's a really good shooter. He's about 6'7", shoots almost 40% from 3. And with Strother and looking like he's going to go towards the NBA draft, they're going to need some shooting on the perimeter. So it's a really good pickup.
Nice. Yeah, that's like you'd mentioned. It's never good losing people in the transfer portal, but if you're able to pick one back up, that's pretty good. I think that's going to conclude Around the Sound. Normally we would say we'll be right back with whatever the next segment is, but not only is Nate not joining us on the podcast this week, he's not going to be doing any editing this week, so we're just going to roll right into it. Sportspredictions.net. What do you got,
Yep.
buddy?
Sportspredictions.net. Our email is oursportspredictions@gmail.com. Want to talk a little bit about our lock of the week last week? We went with 3 Masters locks of the week, and 2 of them hit. So the first one was, we said Tiger was going to make the cut. He did. Then he played 5 holes. Then he withdrew.
Hey,
but
he made it.
He still made the cut. By the way, thank you, Justin Thomas. He did Tiger a solid. He had to bogey one of the last 2 holes. He said, I'll bogey both of the holes just to make sure Tiger gets in.
Just to make sure.
So I know they're friends, so that was awfully nice of him. And then we had Scheffler as a top 5. We should have said top 10. Then we would have gone 3 for 3 because he did finish in a tie for 10th. But we did say John Rahm was going to win. Sure enough, John Rahm won.
He's good at golf.
He really is. It's kind of crazy. He was 4 shots back from Koepka when play started on Sunday. they had to finish. I think they were on like hole number 8 in their third round, so they had to finish 10 holes and then play another 18 all on Sunday. So it was interesting because he was 4 shots back, and then I think going into the final round he was 2 shots back, and then I watched the entire final round for Rahm, and he just looked so locked in.
Yeah.
Despite the pace of play, which was absolutely horrendous.
Man, they need to put a shot clock on golf.
Yeah, I mean, there was one time, and I didn't see this until the next day, where Victor Hovland I think it was on 12 or 13, Victor Hovland was hitting a pitch shot from just off the green, and you could see Patrick Cantlay in the background walking towards the green. Like he was probably a good 30 yards away. And Victor Hovland was saying, fuck this, I am going to hit my shot. So it looks like Cantlay was the main reason why the pace of play was so slow. Brooks still, I like Brooks Koepka. I'm not a big fan of any of the guys that went to LIV, but I still like Brooks. So it was good to see him have a good showing. LIV actually had 3 of the top 6. So that was kind of interesting for me.
Crazy to see Phil and Koepka right there tied for second, 8 under for the tournament. Crazy.
Yep, and then Patrick Reed
Phil
was there too.
7 under in the final round. Crazy.
Yep. So that brings us to our best pick, which was nailing Jon Rahm.
You nailed Jon Rahm?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
No, picking Jon Rahm to win the Masters.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it wasn't that hard of a pick, but still, how often does the favorite actually win? So
not often.
We still are taking that as our best pick.
Hell yeah.
Our worst pick actually goes to the NBA play-in. We had Miami beating Atlanta in the play-in game, which was yesterday, and it didn't happen. So Miami now has to play the winner of Toronto and Chicago.
It's so crazy that there's that many play-in games. Like, what the hell? Just change your playoff format structure.
Yeah. So that was our worst pick. Our lock of the week for this week.
Yes, sir.
The Kraken will steal game 1 from whoever they play.
Hey. That's a bit of foreshadowing and less of a lock, but I'll take it.
Whether it's Minnesota or Dallas, Kraken will win game 1.
Or Colorado, unless something's changed while we've been sitting here.
Sorry, I apologize. Not Minnesota. Minnesota can't do it. Either Dallas or Colorado, yes. Either Dallas or Colorado, whoever they play. Because LA's up 3-1 on Anaheim right now, so they're going to be in the wild card.
Yeah, if LA finishes that off, if LA even gets a point tonight, it'll confirm Kraken as a wild card. So probably won't happen while we're still recording here, but it's looking pretty sure.
Yep, and we've been picking the MLB. We did not get off to a good start, mainly because a lot of the starting pitchers did not get off to good starts this year. Early in the season, especially, we ride with pitching. So, Jacob deGrom in his first start was terrible. There was a couple of others, that
Robbie Ray, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Marco Gonzalez were all terrible. Chris Flexen were all terrible in their first start. Yes, correct.
Yeah, I'm talking about, the upper echelon top tier of pitchers. Shane Bieber. Although I guess he had a pretty good start in his opener.
He did all right, but he lost.
But it was a little bit of a rough start, starting to turn it around, starting to figure it out. We usually get off to a little bit of a rough start in baseball just because baseball's so unpredictable. You can't really expertly know it coming into the season. Usually it takes some time to figure out, who's having a good year, who has a good matchup that day. And so it's starting to get a little better, and hopefully, in the next few weeks, we can continue that hot streak.
Yeah. Have you spent much time looking NBA playoffs?
A little bit. Since they're not technically set right now, we've got the 1 through 7 seeds set in both conferences. Sure. Tomorrow, Chicago and Miami are playing for the winner gets the 8 seed there. And then Oklahoma City and Minnesota are playing as well, and the winner gets the 8th seed in the West there. The first round that interests us the most, it's the 2-7 matchup in the West between Memphis and the Lakers. That's going to be fun. I mean, Memphis, we've talked about them ad nauseum this year with Ja Morant.
Yeah.
And, with LeBron and Ja Morant, it's going to be very, very interesting. Dylan Brooks is going to be the one to guard LeBron, and Dylan Brooks is the biggest pain in the ass in the entire NBA. He has since passed Draymond Green, actually, which is saying something.
That's saying something.
So it's going to be a real interesting series.
Nice.
Another one that's going to be interesting is Phoenix and the Clippers.
I am interested in seeing what Phoenix can do. It's a little bit of a test case, right? Big mid-season acquisition. Does it help?
Yep. Well, and the reason why it's interesting for me is it's, yet another round of Durant Westbrook. So that's going to be fun too.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and then we've got some Eastern conferences that the Eastern Conference has some good matchups as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing the Knicks play. I'm looking to see who they're playing in the first round. They're playing Cleveland, so I think that's going to be a fun series. It's always cool to see playoff basketball in Madison Square Garden, so I'm looking forward to that. And then the Nets 76ers, at the start of the year, people thought this was going to be a finals matchup, but the Nets still made the playoffs and still, I think, are the 6th seed, and they're playing the 76ers. They've had a little bit of a rivalry. James Harden going against his former team. Ben Simmons not playing, against his former team. But there's a lot of storylines with that one as well. And then one more is Golden State against Sacramento. Sacramento is the higher ranked team, so they are the 3 seed. So it's going to be fun to see playoff basketball in Sacramento, which hasn't happened in 17 years.
Yeah, that'll start pulling those Band-Aids back up for that team even still being there.
Yeah, it's a lot of interesting matchups, I think, in round 1, which makes for some compelling basketball. So I'm looking forward to it.
Nice, yeah. Sweet. Good stuff. Here we've reached another one of those awkward moments where normally there would be an edit.
All right.
Should we like sing a jingle or?
Hey, what you got? Hey, what you got? Hey, Thomas.
Yes,
what
sir.
You got?
Just one quick note. Just a callback to episode 8, I believe. For those of you that have been with us that long, we did an interview. Oh my gosh, Jason Reed.
I wasn't here that week. Sure.
Oh my gosh. This is one of those moments where I wish we were editable so that we could, change the information if we had it wrong. This is one of those things, I could have prepared ahead of time, and now I'm just filling the space with air while I click around the internet a couple times to make sure I've got it right.
I wonder if Nate is listening in. Do we have a listener on YouTube right now?
I don't know. I'm looking at it through OBS. It is Jason Reed. I had it right, of course. I was confident the whole time. If you don't remember, we had him on to talk a lot about Sonicsgate, but also just kind of some general questions about filmmaking and making documentaries and things like that. It was a pretty interesting interview. While he was here, he was talking about the project he was working on at the time that was called Sam Now. It's released. It's pretty cool. So there's limited screenings in a small number of cities, but for those of you that are here near us in the Pacific Northwest, there's a number of screenings in Seattle and Bremerton and some other areas as well. So if you want to check it out, samnowmovie.com.
What's it about?
So let's go read the thing. Why would you ask me that, man? My understanding is that it's a documentary about someone kind of growing up and some of the difficulties in family and things like that.
That's cool. I watched Sonicsgate. I've watched another one of his documentaries. He's a really good filmmaker. It's very thorough. He does really good work. So I'm going to be interested to see what this one is as well.
Okay. I'm remembering a little bit now. Let me read this blurb that's here. What do 2 film-obsessed brothers do to solve a family mystery? Using every video format imaginable, they make a movie as they travel thousands of miles looking for their missing mother, stitching together 25 years of home videos and filling the gaps in the archive with play. Sam Now is a mosaic of love, longing, and loss, as well as an attempt to overcome intergenerational trauma. Very interesting.
That does sound interesting.
Yeah, really, really cool. He was really excited about it when he was talking to us about it. So
nice.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, what you got?
So we talked a little bit about the Masters in sports predictions and John Rahm's win. The weather was absolutely insane the whole weekend. I mean, it was beautiful on Thursday. It was like 85 degrees, no wind. Couldn't ask for a better golf day. Then on Friday, the wind picked up. Then on Saturday, it started to rain and trees fell down on 17.
I can't believe that.
I can't believe no one was injured.
That's crazy. Wasn't there like someone between two of the trees that fell down?
Yeah. I mean, from what I heard is a bunch of pine cones started to fall, and then they heard a bunch of cracks, and then they just ran away.
Jeez.
And thank God they did. And then on Sunday, the weather wasn't great. It was really windy, but at least there was no rain. But it was just, I mean, you had 4 days of completely different golf because of the weather.
Yeah, that's crazy. Man, I wonder, because a lot of times, there's like different pin placements every single day. And, the Sunday pin is the hard pin. I wonder if they have to make changes on the fly for some of those course layout issues, like which tee box to use, where to put the pin. I wonder if that plan is like set in stone before the tournament or whether they have to kind of adjust on the fly.
I think it's set in stone because, on 16, that par 3, it's front left. Sunday was front left, just like always. The par 3 on 12, is the par 3 on 11 or 12? The first par 3 on the back.
I'm not sure.
Whatever the first par 3 on the back, I think it's 12. That location is always front right on Sunday, and it was there again. So I think they are set in stone.
Yeah, they could be.
On 2, that long par 5, the pin is always in the back right corner. So I think it's pretty much set. Hey, Thomas, what you got?
I just got a couple baseball things to touch on real quick. We already kind of mentioned Kelenic's Dangers. Go check them out. They're impressive. If you haven't been paying attention to other teams, the Rays are 13-0. It's ridiculous. They won again tonight. It's pretty crazy. Looking at, anomalies like this happen early in the season, and someone else will have a 13-game win streak, but it's crazy at the start of the year. And then just a couple kind of statistical oddities. I was going searching, just looking around Baseball Reference and Baseball Savant and everything. Kelenic is 3rd in baseball right now in xwOBA.
That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty good. Again, small sample size, but 3rd in the league is pretty good. And then a bit of comedy here. Teoscar Hernandez, Mr. Jesse Winker 2.0, apparently, has already accumulated 0.5 defensive WAR, which is like...
Okay.
Brian.
Whoa.
Which is like 4th in Major League Baseball.
That's because he has 3 assists already. I'm just saying. Did you see? He should have made the ball hit his glove on that. I'm kidding. That was a tough catch.
That was a really tough catch. But if he makes it, we're talking about a 6-7 baseball team that isn't in the dumper, That's the wrong use of that term. Anyway, just a couple statistical oddities there.
Really quick. So the Tampa Bay so far this season has played Detroit.
Yep.
Who's supposed to be terrible.
Yep.
Washington.
Yep.
Worst team in the National League.
Yep.
Athletics.
Yep.
Worst team in baseball.
Yeah.
And then the Red Sox, worst team in their division.
Yeah.
So
it was funny, actually. Like, I think it was maybe last Tuesday or Wednesday after the Mariners had come off their 1-3 series against Cleveland, and they lost the first one to the Angels, and everyone was like freaking out. And I remember I might have been Bucky in the morning on 950. And I think the Rays were 4-0 or 5-0 at some point. And he said specifically, we could be talking about this at this time next week, and the Rays could be 10 or 11-0. Look how easy their schedule is. And it's like, man, there you go.
Yeah.
Came to pass.
But they start a series tomorrow against Toronto, so that's going to be a little tougher. I think they're going to get another prediction, another lock of the week for sports predictions. They're going to get their first loss of the week, first loss of the year this weekend.
Oh, really sticking your neck out there.
I know, right?
Hey, Brian, what you got?
So Dan Snyder finally selling the Washington Commanders.
Praise Jeebus.
God, but he is getting $6 billion.
Yeah, it sucks that these sports owners are losing so much money, huh?
Gosh. Yeah, and it sucks that he's forced to sell because he's such a shitty person, and his reward is $6 billion. Ridiculous.
Man, I would love to say I'd rather, not be a shitty person, but $6 billion is a lot of money.
I would do some shitty stuff for $6 billion.
Brian, that's
not what he did.
Brian, that's 6,000 million.
I understand that. I wouldn't do what he did, but I would cut some corners for $6 billion for sure.
Yeah, I cut up more than a few. Crazy. You got anything else, or are we scooting on?
I think we're scooting on to Would You Rather, which is going to be brought to you by Thomas this weekend. This week.
Yeah, so just a little peek behind the curtain here. Thomas is very lazy, and I think he's probably less committed to this than Brian and Nate, and so usually he enjoys this part of the show because he just gets to sit back and really struggle to answer the really entertaining questions that other people ask. This week he's done a little bit of homework, so
and Brian is really excited for this because the last time Thomas did a Would You Rather, it was a very good Would You Rather.
Oh, but it was way too detailed, but it was fun.
It was, but I mean, it was better than Nate. Shout out, Nate.
Oh, let's shit on him. He's not here. It's the best.
Well, we would say it. We would say it if he was here.
Okay, so this is a vacation themed Would You Rather, and I think we can go through it more than once. It's almost we'll read kind of like a choose your own adventure.
I love these kind of Would You Rathers. It's kind of like a pyramid, right?
Yeah, like if you answer A.
Yep.
I'm
looking forward to this.
All right. Vacation themed. Would you rather go alone or with a partner?
As a person who has done both, much rather have a partner.
Agree. I couldn't figure out how to word this. On your ideal vacation, are you staying somewhere with a roof or not?
So like camping, or would you consider an RV a roof?
No.
That makes it interesting because I still probably would go roof because I want to go somewhere tropical that I can't drive to.
There you go. All right. So next one is cheap or bougie roof.
Cheap. Because when I'm on vacation, don't spend a lot of time in the room.
There you go. Winter or summer?
Summer.
Mountain or ocean?
Ocean. Like I just said, man, I love the beach. You know, I did both of those last year. I mean, technically, you could consider hiking in Zion as the mountains.
Sure.
And then I did, a cruise last year where I was on the ocean. So I did both those, and nice. I would definitely say ocean.
It's a hard choice because I think for me, the thing I enjoy most on vacation is the sound of the waves. But I love the mountains.
Because it's so peaceful up there.
No. Well, it's the sound of the wind in the trees kind of gives me the same vibes. Okay, so that was partner, cheap roof, summer ocean.
Yep.
If you went alone, roof or no roof?
No roof. That's a great question.
Camp or backpack?
Backpack.
Okay. Or I guess camp, backpack, RV.
Camp.
Okay.
I would have a tent.
Sure. Winter or summer?
Summer. I wouldn't want to camp in the winter.
Mountain or ocean?
See, there I would go the mountains.
Isn't that interesting?
Yep.
Like you've given almost the opposite answers. Interesting.
Yep.
There you go.
Because I love them both.
It's well, and we're preaching.
There's no wrong answer
here. In these parts, it's tough to go somewhere that sucks. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
What about you? What are your answers for these questions?
I think I'm. It's hard, man. Uh, ideal trip is partner roof bougie summer mountain.
Okay.
It's weird, but the reason I say bougie roof is like, so we just were in Whistler, and so many activities to go do during the day, and then then you can go to the spa.
Yeah.
It's pretty
No,
good.
that makes sense.
It's pretty
Makes
good.
sense. So what about same questions if you had to go alone?
Yeah, I mean alone is a backpack. Early spring, late fall. So like a cold backpack in the mountains, I think is
Like right now?
I told you before we started recording, I was up on top of Mount Si yesterday, and the last like mile and a quarter of the trail was snow and ice, and it was incredible. What have you?
No, that's awesome.
There you go.
All right, time for our final segment, our random question generator.
Bum, bum, bum.
Let me pull something up here and see what we've got. I really want to pull something that I think Nate would like.
Oh, just to get him. I like that idea.
What activity do you do where your mind wanders in thoughts the most?
Hike.
Yeah, I mean it's something similar for me. It's I walk Griff every morning.
Yeah.
And so when I'm on my morning walks with the dog, that's when I'm kind of just going randomly.
It's interesting phrasing.
That's
Right? Because like, if
literally
I'm doing an
verbatim.
activity, usually I'm focused on the activity. But I guess, stuff like yard work, you're just mowing the lawn, things that you enjoy that are kind of mindless, that put you at ease and put you in a nice place and let your brain kind of reflect a little bit.
You know what another one is for me
Huh.
is keeping score at a Mariners game with a beer in my hand. There's nothing better, man.
You and Nate and I are the same on that.
By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't shout out happy birthday, buddy. I know it's a couple days late, but happy birthday, Thomas.
Thanks, man. Here as we're recording on Thursday, April 13th, I'm 40.
Yeah. Crazy.
So it is what it is. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah. No problem.
Did we do the same for Nate? Because his was like 11 days ago.
Nate, happy belated birthday.
Oh my God. What a guy that Nate. We love him.
I know. We miss you, Nate. Can't wait
buddy.
for you to come back.
Cool. I think, we hit everything in the agenda. You got anything else you want to touch before we get out of here?
No, this was a fun one. It was a little different, only having me and you, but it was a lot of fun.
Life is good, man. Appreciate you giving us some time. Glad you guys have been here listening to us, and can't wait to be with you again next week.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Nate, cut it here.
See, I told you it wasn't going to take very long.
Okay, bye, YouTube.